Good evening, respected guests, colleagues, and friends, and welcome to the 2021 Blavatnik Awards for Young Scientists. Please give a warm welcome to tonight's distinguished Master of Ceremonies, the 29th President of Harvard University, Lawrence S. Bacow.
Thank you, gentlemen. Never had an introduction like that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Blavatnik Awards for Young Scientists. I've been fortunate to spend my career in the company of extraordinarily talented people, but I have to confess, never in the company of the world's largest mammal. In recent months, this enormous relative of ours has been watching over actually a COVID-19 vaccination site. It's actually even gotten in on the action, accounting for one or two of some 6.17 billion doses worldwide and counting. Now, we're humbled tonight, I think, by scale. Science reaches across space and time. It connects human beings and human effort across generations. It also touches each and every one of us. I think it enriches our appreciation, deepens our understanding, and improves our lives, and even saves lives. Where would we be this evening without science? I can tell you I wouldn't be here for sure, and it's absolutely true. I'm not a scientist, but science actually opened an important door to learning for me. When I was growing up in Michigan, like I suspect many of you in this audience, I was a science and math nerd and geek with very, very narrow interests. My high school librarian, a wonderful woman by the name of Mrs. Pearl Jacobstein, realized that one way to get me to read far more broadly was to introduce me to biographies of people that I admired. And so that meant scientists. So she got me reading a biography of Sir Isaac Newton to start. Now, reading about Newton's life led me to his writings, and I wanted to share with you tonight the last line of his preface to the Principia, his famous work that outlined the proposed laws of motion and universal gravitation. He wrote, "I heartily beg that what I have here done may be read with candor, and that the defects in a subject so difficult be not so much reprehended as kindly supplied and investigated by new endeavors of my readers." Think about that. Isaac Newton begging for candor and kindness. Newton knowing that the endeavor was shared, that his work, in fact, would go on, would be done by others. Science is a constant source of humility and I think an endless wellspring of achievement, as this room indicates. This year, perhaps more than others in all of our lifetimes, has reminded me of that fact. Public health and the insights and tools that kept us from harm's way, vaccines, and the fundamental curiosity-based research that was done decades ago that made them all possible. Vaccines and the partnerships that sped them into all of our arms. Again and again, science saves humanity with a combination of, I think, relentless optimism, tempered by clear-eyed realism. I'm honored to have been invited to play host this evening. Ours is a celebration of brilliance, creativity, and fierceness. We've placed in the hands of tonight's honorees, I think, the hopes of the future, the hopes of all humanity and the planet that we all share. And I honestly believe that those hopes are extraordinarily well placed. These individuals, early in their remarkable careers, are changing the world in fundamental and profound ways. Their drive and their spirit are the heart of the Blavatnik Awards, now in their 15th year. I say heart because the areas to which Len and Emily Blavatnik and the Blavatnik Family Foundation have devoted their resources are demonstrations of care and compassion for others, for other people throughout the world. Harvard is just one of the many institutions represented here this evening and throughout the world that have benefited tremendously from Len and Emily's foresight and their generosity. I think around the world, the name Blavatnik is synonymous with expertise, exploration, and energy. I spoke with Len just the other day, and he called me to personally convey his regrets that he's unable to attend this evening due to an unexpected but pressing conflict. You can only imagine what it took to keep Len away from this event tonight, an event which he loves so very much. He was greatly looking forward to seeing you all, and especially to taking part in the medal ceremonies that celebrate the achievements of these young scientists. And this year, in the midst of COVID, I think there's something uniquely special for all of us to celebrate. The way from the very earliest days of the pandemic, Blavatnik scholars literally adjusted their research agendas and turned their attention and effort to helping us solve this crisis. Blavatnik Award nominees have been at the forefront of the fight in a variety of ways, from leading an international collaboration to repurpose existing drugs to treat the virus, to developing COVID tests based upon machine learning and CRISPR gene editing technology. From a free self-reporting app to track the spread of this disease, to biochemical studies of how the virus infects human cells, to new ways to disinfect N95 face masks for effective use, especially back in the days where personal protective equipment was in such scarce supply, to partnerships with government agencies to predict hospital bed capacities and efficiently distribute scarce resources, to the design of a lab on a chip of 5-minute COVID tests and more. These young scientists rose to the challenge. They are helping us to forge a new path. And I think I speak for all of us when I say thank you to each of these scientists for their vision, for their dedication. Please join me in thanking all of them. We're delighted tonight to be joined by a number of scientific luminaries and other celebrated guests, including from the Scripps Institute. And please hold your applause until the end. The 2001 Nobel laureate in chemistry, and actually a former colleague of mine from my MIT days, Barry Sharpless. From Weill Cornell Medicine, Nobel winner in physiology and chemistry, Harold Varmus. The Senior Vice President and Director of IBM Research, Dario Gil. The Executive Vice President and Executive and Artistic Director, of Carnegie Hall, Clive Gillinson. And we're pleased to also be joined by a number of institutional leaders who continue to shape communities of academic excellence, communities of research, communities of scholarship. I'm pleased to recognize my colleagues, the President of the Graduate Center at the City University of New York, Robin Garrell, the President of New York University, Andy Hamilton, the President of Brandeis University, Ron Leibovitz, the President of Tel Aviv University, Ariel Porat, the President of Yale University, Peter Salovey, the Provost of Columbia University, another former colleague of mine, Mary Boyce, the Director of the Institute for Advanced Study, Robert Dygraft, and Dean of the Harvard Medical School, George Daly, but also the Dean of the Stanford Medical School, Stanford University School of Medicine, I need to get it right, Lloyd Minor, and other prominent academic leaders. We are really honored by all of your presence. Please join me in welcoming everyone. I'd also like to recognize at this moment the pivotal role that's been played by the New York Academy of Sciences in the stewardship of the Blavatnik Awards since their inception. For more than 200 years, the Academy has brought together extraordinary people working at the leading edge of scientific thought. Since the awards were established in 2007, the Academy has recruited hundreds of leading scientists as nominators, as judges for these honors, and it works closely with esteemed international partners such as the Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities. Each year, more than 500 postdoctoral fellows in the New York tri-state area, along with early career faculty scientists from across the US, the UK, and Israel compete for Blavatnik Awards, honors in categories of life sciences, chemistry, and physical sciences and engineering, and the opportunity to receive up to $250,000 in unrestricted funding to drive forward their innovative research, the largest unrestricted prize for early career scientists. There were, however, no Blavatnik Award celebrations in New York last year, and due to COVID, obviously, and public recognition of the 2020 Blavatnik Awards honorees in the United States was limited. Fortunately, scientists love repeatability. So we're going to begin our celebration tonight by shining a well-deserved light on last year's Blavatnik Award scholars, starting right now with the 2020 Blavatnik Regional Award honorees. To confer this evening's first awards, please join me in welcoming the President and CEO of the New York Academy of Sciences, and another friend who took up his post just over a year ago, Professor Nicholas Dirks.
Thank you, Larry, and good evening, everyone. It is particularly appropriate that we should be celebrating the honorees of the 2020 and 2021 Blavatnik Awards for Young Scientists in this Museum of Natural History. Not only, as Larry mentioned, because the room was used for New York City's vaccination rollout, but because very often it is museums like this, and this museum in particular, that are a child's first exposure to science, the excitement that can bring, and the early stages of launching a career in science. The American Museum of Natural History has a special place in the history of the New York Academy of Sciences. When the Academy was founded in 1817, over 200 years ago, its name at first was the Lyceum of Natural History. And several of the Lyceum's founders went on to develop many of New York City's key scientific institutions, one of which was this museum, which then became the home of the New York Academy of Sciences for nearly 50 years. Moreover, it was two notable women researchers at the museum who played critical roles at the Academy during the 20th century. One was Eunice Thomas Minor, a research assistant in the Department of Invertebrate Biology who went on to lead the New York Academy for 30 years in the middle of the last century, strengthening the role and impact of the Academy while moving it out of the museum and to the Woolworth Mansion on the Upper East Side, where it held some of the first major conferences on subjects ranging from antibiotics to epidemic disease and the role of DNA. The other was Margaret Mead, the legendary anthropologist whose primary appointment was here in the museum, despite her longtime association with the Department of Anthropology at Columbia, same department, I will confess, I chaired for many years. Now, Margaret was also vice president of the Academy in the 1950s and 60s, and she too can be credited with shaping much of its vision during the 20th century. In her case, especially its commitment to public-facing events and to advocacy for the collective public good. Now, the vision of the New York Academy of Sciences further expanded in the 21st century, not least thanks to Len Blavatnik's foresight and recognition of the importance of recognizing and supporting young scientists at early critical stages in their research careers. 15 years ago, Len, having attended the Nobel Prize ceremony in Stockholm with my predecessor, Ellis Rubinstein, decided that he would create this new award program, but for younger scientists, for scientists who had not yet gotten to the point of a Nobel. But by doing so, he has made such a huge impact on the scientific community. We all owe a great debt to Len for his incredible generosity, which to date has recognized more than 350 rising stars in science who are changing the world with their passion and their discoveries. And we've seen during this past year and a half how much we need the tireless dedication of the world scientists to help solve global crises and to help solve the global crisis of the pandemic that we are still living in. But it has shown us how borderless collaboration can speed up the research and the discovery process by tapping into the most brilliant minds doing cutting-edge work regardless of where they live, where their labs are, what their nationality is, and so on. Despite the many challenges we face today, let us take heart that there is much to be hopeful about. That there will always be those, first inspired perhaps by seeing dinosaurs on display in a science museum, who go on to choose the path of discovery and exploration to create the tools we need to fashion a better world and to deal with crises such as we are in. And so, in this most international of cities, and in this magnificent institution steeped in the history of our species, and with all of you who are dedicated to supporting the cause of science, let us celebrate the scientific community at large, as well as the brilliant discoveries of today's researchers, who are creating exciting new tomorrows. Now, before I present the first awards of the evening, I'd like to recognize the members of the Awards Scientific Advisory Council in the United States who guide and advise our team. It is a large and very eminent group, as you can see. Let's give them a round of applause. And of course, our esteemed team of judges for both the regional and the national award competitions, those who served in 2020 and in 2021, for their hard work selecting all the nominees, from among all the nominees, the winners and finalists whom we are here to celebrate this evening. These prominent scientists lent their time and expertise to the program, all in the name of supporting the next generation of scientists in New York and across the nation. We could not have done this without you. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. And now, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce to you this evening's first honorees, the finalists for the 2020 Blavatnik Regional Awards. Now, these 6 postdoctoral fellows, who will each receive $10,000, were selected from among 154 outstanding nominees from 24 academic institutions across the New York metropolitan region.
The 2020 Blavatnik Regional Award finalists are: in Life Sciences, nominated by the Rockefeller University, Amelia Escolano. And also from the Rockefeller University, Mark Schneeberger Panay. In Chemistry, nominated by Cornell University, Zhenwen Mao. And in Physical Sciences and Engineering, nominated by the University of Connecticut, Zara Abdullanajad. In absentia, we also recognize those finalists unable to join us in person tonight. In Chemistry, nominated by Columbia University, Yifei Zhang. In Physical Sciences and Engineering, nominated by Yale University, Shruti Puri.
So congratulations to the 2020 regional finalists. Another round of applause. Next, we're going to meet the 2020 regional winners, who tonight will each receive $30,000 to support their future research. Now, these talented postdoctoral researchers include a neuroscientist, improving memory formation and recall, a biochemist refining gene editing technologies, and an astrophysicist illuminating dark matter. And as I prepare to present their well-earned medals, let's take a look at a brief video that profiles the work of the three 2020 Blavatnik Regional Award winners.
When I found out that I was a Blavatnik Award honoree, I was frankly totally surprised. I did not consider at all that I would be able to win the Blavatnik Award.
The Blavatnik Regional Awards will be definitely an encourage for me to go further in my scientific career.
The Blavatnik Award was very helpful in this period when I was looking for jobs, and finally we were able to successfully land a faculty job at Cornell University.
In my work, I use incredibly complex instruments to examine the structure of the biological molecules that make up CRISPR-Cas in order to determine the atoms and groups of atoms that are responsible for its function.
My work is focused on special types of neurons in the hippocampus that are called place cells. A single one of them fire only when an animal is in one specific location. I found that specific rhythmic patterns of activation coming from different brain regions interact to activate individual place cells, thereby informing the animal of where they are in space.
I'm an astrophysicist, and I enjoy the challenge of trying to unravel some of the biggest mysteries of the known universe. I've established precise models that reveal for the first time clear evidence of a dark matter substructure in the outskirts of the galaxy. The exciting part is that this discovery has allowed scientists to reliably constrain and more or less define the physical properties of dark matter in our galaxy.
Congratulations to the Blavatnik Regional Award winners for 2020. In Life Sciences, nominated by New York University, the winner is Antonio Fernandez Ruiz. In Physical Sciences and Engineering, nominated by Flatiron Institute, the winner is Adrian Price Whelan. In absentia, we also honor the chemistry winner, nominated by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Institute, Ning Jia. Congratulations to the 2020 Blavatnik Regional Awards finalists and winners.
So enjoy your moment in the spotlight. You have earned it. Now, the 2021 Regional Awards have just been announced this past week, and the awardees will receive their awards during a special Academy Gala next year, along with the 2022 award recipients. But coming up next tonight, the Blavatnik Awards for Young Scientists recognizes the best young faculty members from across our nation. The 2020 and 2021 Blavatnik National Awards finalists and laureates.
Please welcome back to the stage President Lawrence S. Bacow of Harvard University.
We want to honor the double cohort of 2020 and 2021 national finalists. These premier early career faculty scientists and engineers represent the best of our nation's research universities, government labs, and research institutes.
The 2020 and 2021 Blavatnik National Awards finalists in Life Sciences. From Yale University, Elena Gracheva. From University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Kai-Yu Guan. From Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Harvard Medical School, Sigal Kadosh. From Vanderbilt University, Pura Merrick. From Texas A&M University, Seth Murray. From California Institute of Technology, Mikhail G. Shapiro. In absentia, we also recognize from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Polina Anikiyeva. From Stanford University, Michael Fischbach. From California Institute of Technology, Viviana Gradinaru. From Boston Children's Hospital, Sun He. From Northwestern University, Julius B. Lux. From Stanford University, Stanley Chi. From University of California, San Francisco, Peter J. Turnbaugh. From Princeton University, Niang Yan. And from University of California, Berkeley, Ahmet Yildiz. Congratulations to the outstanding life sciences finalists. Next, the chemistry category. The 2020 and 2021 chemistry finalists are from University of Oregon, Shannon Betcher. From University of Washington, Brandy Kossert. From Johns Hopkins University, Rebecca Clausen. From Columbia University, Wei Min. From Scripps Research Institute, Ryan A. Shenby. From Indiana University, Sarah Skrabalak. And from University of California, San Diego, Hoel Yuen Zhou. In absentia, we also recognize from Columbia University, Luis Campos. From University of Minnesota Twin Cities, Paul Danauer. From University of Chicago, Guangbin Dong. From Northwestern University, Dana Friedman. From University of California, Los Angeles, Neil Garg. From University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Prashant K. Jain. From University of California, Los Angeles, Hosea M. Nelson. From Washington University in St. Louis, Gary Patty. From Northwestern University, Emily A. Weiss. And nominated by University of California, Berkeley, Wenjun Zhang. Congratulations to the impressive chemistry finalists, the 2020 and 2021 finalists in physical sciences and engineering. From University of Maryland College Park, Mohammed Hafezi. From University of Maryland College Park, Mohammed Hajiagai. From Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Ashigun Henry. From University of Maryland College Park, Liang Bing Hu. From Yale University, Maureen D. Long. From Yale University, Noah Planowski. From Cornell University, Killian Weinberger. And from the University of Texas at Austin, Gui Hua Yu. And in absentia, from University of Wisconsin-Madison, Aditya Akela. From Columbia University, Corey Dean. From the University of Texas at Austin, Kristen Grauman. From New York University, Subhash Kote. From Carnegie Mellon University, Graham Newbig. From University of California, Los Angeles, Idigon Ozcan. And from University of California, Santa Barbara, Andrea F. Young. Congratulations to all the Blavatnik National Awards finalists for 2020 and 2021. Now, once again, please welcome tonight's MC.
Before Nick Dirks joins us once again on stage to present the Laureate Awards for 2020, we have a brief video highlighting the extraordinary work of the three 2020 Blavatnik National Awards laureates.
I have the best job in the world. We get to choose the problems that we work on, and we get to make discoveries that will have an impact.
I enjoy combining all the different clues, all the different pieces of the puzzle to form a coherent explanation.
I view the scientific process as a great adventure. At the frontiers of science, we really don't know what we're going to find, but we're confident that we're going to see things that no one has ever seen before.
My name is Professor Will Dickell. I'm in the Department of Chemistry at Northwestern University. We are trying to control the structure of materials in ways that was not previously possible. And we do this by designing materials that have both chemical components but also free space, so they are porous. This combination allows us to design materials with amazing functions and unexpectedly good properties. Crystallizing molecules into two-dimensional covalent organic frameworks has been a goal in polymer science for nearly 100 years. How to design a material with this structure. In doing that, we will gain access to an entire class of materials that were not previously available that will be tunable for a broad range of applications. They can remove trace pollutants from water, store electricity, they can detect trace substances. It's a wide open frontier.
I'm Brian Metzger, professor of physics at Columbia University and a senior research associate at Flatiron Institute. I am a theoretical astrophysicist who is interested in the explosive universe, the birth and death of stars, and what these events can teach us about the origin of the elements, particularly the heaviest elements, gold, silver, and platinum. But the heaviest elements like gold, they're a challenge to create. You need to take a lighter nucleus like iron and bombard it at a high rate with neutrons. The problem is that neutrons are rare in nature, and when two neutron stars collide, the debris from this collision can synthesize these very heavy elements, and this causes the matter ejected from the merger to glow and produce a signal that we can observe. My work was to make predictions for the appearance of this signal, what we call a kilonova. How bright should it be? What colors should it have? How can we use kilonova to tell us what types of heavy elements were created in these mergers? So on August 17, 2017, the LIGO Gravitational Wave Observatory detected its first neutron-star merger. The theoretical models I developed for the appearance of that kilonova matched very well what was observed. And for the first time, astronomers had direct evidence that some of the heaviest elements in our universe can be created in neutron-star mergers.
I'm Cliff Brangwyn. I'm a professor of chemical and biological engineering at Princeton University and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. Historically, people have thought about cells as machines with interlocking parts. What we now understand is that the cell is full of tens of thousands of different biomolecules, vastly more complex than any technology that human engineers have made. Our research tries to address the question of what are the physical rules that govern organization in living cells. And that's important because we need to understand those rules if we're going to treat human disease. Organelles are the little organs of cells. We discovered that biomolecules organize themselves in the absence of membranes into liquid droplets called membrane-less organelles through a process known as liquid-liquid phase separation. This process is pretty much the same physics that governs how water molecules condense into droplets in rain, for example. We've developed a set of technologies that allow us to control and interrogate phase separation in living cells. This is important because it provides predictive, quantitative framework for understanding membraneless organelles and how their formation might go awry in devastating human disease like Alzheimer's and ALS.
The dream for these materials is that they provide improved water security, better energy storage devices, and many other new technologies in the future.
The famous Carl Sagan quote, "The calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interior of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff."
If we can understand the principles at play in living cells, we're going to be able to develop technologies that will have a transformative impact on humanity.
Now it's my privilege to introduce the 2020 laureate in life sciences from Princeton University, Clifford Brangwyn. Let's meet the exceptional 2020 National Laureate in Chemistry from Northwestern University, William R. Dichtel. Congratulations, and now the 2020 Laureate in Physical Sciences and Engineering from Columbia University, Brian Metzger. Please join me in a warm round of applause for the three 2020 Blavatnik National Laureates. Bravo and congratulations to all three. Without a doubt, scholars and social scientists and artists will be delving into COVID-19's impact on humanity, on the world for many, many decades to come. I suspect people are going to be writing dissertations about this for years. But this is also likely to include studying social isolation and its effect on brain circuitry and human relationships and more. I feel certain that this year's Blavatnik National Awards laureate in life sciences will be in the thick of that important work. Let's learn more about the visionary 2021 Life Sciences laureate, K.M. Tai.
To be a pioneer, you not only have to have great ideas and get there first, but you also have to build the bridges to bring everyone else with you. I'm Kay Tai. I'm the Wiley Vale Professor of Neuroscience at the Salk Institute. The overarching big question that I'm trying to address is how the brain gives rise to the mind. I was always fascinated by how it is that we have these subjective experiences that are unique. How can we play a song at a party and one person loves it and another person hates it? What gives rise to preferences and how we interpret things in the world as good or bad? The brain is really like a tangled mess of wires. Specifically, we are interested in the neural circuit mechanisms underlying emotional processing and social behavior. What we're trying to do is dissect the circuit component by component, piece by piece, to understand what each part of the circuit does and understand how information is dynamically moving through this rich labyrinth. Imagine a future where every single person with a mental health disorder could find a therapeutic intervention that was completely effective and completely free of side effects. To make a mental health revolution, we need to rethink treatment development by first understanding how the brain works and then developing a strategy that is based on our biological understanding. Why is it that so many people are exposed to alcohol? Only some people develop an alcohol use disorder. We found that there's a specific circuit going from the cortex to the brainstem that indicates on the very first exposure to alcohol whether an individual will become a compulsive drinker later. The COVID-19 pandemic affected our research program significantly. It became obvious that we needed to study chronic social isolation. Social isolation, or even just perceived loneliness, can have many negative health consequences. We discovered that dopamine neurons in the dorsal raphe nucleus represent the experience of social isolation. So this provides an entry point for us to be able to dissect the circuit. I think there have been a lot of improvements, but there's much more work that needs to be done for there to be gender parity in science. I was honored to be among the extraordinary list of finalists. I don't have any words how great this feeling is, just to be recognized for doing the work that we are so passionate about. We've established rigorous modern neuroscience investigation at the highest level, and this is something that I find extremely gratifying.
Please welcome the 2021 Blavatnik National Awards laureate in Life Sciences from the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, K.M. Tai.
Thank you, and good evening. How do cells in our brain work together to endow us the ability to have thoughts and feelings, to have preferences and superstitions, to have personalities and dynamic relationships? How do we know our place in the world and how to behave within it? Tonight, I want to give you a window into how the brain and its communication systems give rise to some of the most consequential experiences of our entire lives. But first, who am I? I'm the daughter of a physicist and a biologist who literally met on the boat to America in pursuit of an education. Here are my parents graduating from MIT at their PhD hooding ceremony. So, since there was, of course, no pressure at all to become a scientist, here I am at my ceremony about 30 years later. This is my graduation from MIT. And as a college student, I had to decide whether I would focus on psychology, the study of the mind, or neuroscience, the study of the brain. I chose neuroscience because I wanted to understand how the mind is born out of biological tissue. But now I've come full circle to do both, and my research is bridging the gap between the mind and the brain. Your brain creates all facets of your mind, and as a graduate student in neuroscience, I was told that you can't study how internal states like anxiety or craving or loneliness are represented by the brain. So I set out to do exactly that. In my research, I investigate the mind by understanding brain circuits. Specifically, how does our brain give rise to emotion and features of emotion, such as how positive or negative something is to us? This feature is called emotional valence. Emotional valence drives motivated behaviors, which fall into two general classes: seeking pleasure, such as eating a delicious treat, or avoiding pain, like when you are hungry. Emotional valence also applies to social interactions. Being at a birthday party can be remarkably pleasurable, while being shunned and teased can be one of the most painful experiences. In both animals and people, it is hard to study feelings and emotions because they can't be quantified. Behavior is still the best and only window into the emotional experience of another. However, technology has opened new windows into the black box that is our minds. In the last decade, the development of new tools has allowed us unprecedented control over specific neurons in the brain and how they talk to each other by firing electrical signals. We can genetically engineer neurons to be light sensitive and use light to control how neurons fire with precision. This technology is called optogenetics. We can then see what happens to the animal's behavior, giving us insight into what that neural circuit can do. With help from my colleagues, I pioneered the use of optogenetic tools to selectively target neurons living in point A, sending their messages down wires to point B, leaving neighboring neurons going other places unaffected. This approach allowed us to specifically test the function of each wire within the tangled mess that is our brain. Let me show you an example of how we can change the activity in specific neural circuits to change specific aspects of behavior. Because of our interest in compulsive eating disorders, we wanted to explore a neural circuit that could be responsible for feeding behavior. To identify the neural circuits for feeding behavior, we have here a fully fed mouse exploring a space that is completely devoid of food. Here, we are about to use optogenetics to target neurons in a brain area called the hypothalamus, sending signals to another area called the midbrain. When I turn the light on, right here, indicated by the blue text on the bottom, you can see that he immediately begins licking the floor. This seemingly frenzied behavior soon escalates into something I think is pretty remarkable. Okay, this incredible part's coming up right here. Boom, there it is. The mouse picks up its hands as if it is holding a piece of food, but no food is present. That means that this circuit is sufficient to drive feeding behavior in the absence of hunger, even in the absence of food. While I can't know exactly how this mouse was feeling, I speculate these neurons can drive craving based on our ability to measure the compulsive overeating that mice do when we stimulate this pathway in the presence of food. When I turn the light off, as I've just done, indicated by the white text on the bottom, you can see he's back to normal. Given my deep interest in motivated behaviors and emotions, it would be impossible not to consider social factors. In our daily lives, one of the biggest impacts on our emotions involves social interactions. Species that live in social groups can be incredibly successful. Social species find interactions rewarding and isolation aversive. Our social environments changed dramatically between 2019 and 2020. In 2020, anxiety and depression skyrocketed, with 70% citing social isolation as a primary reason. Social isolation, or even perceived loneliness, correlates with a shortened lifespan, mood disorders, cancer, heart disease, and inflammation. But we don't know how. There is an urgent need to understand the biology of loneliness and our drive to socialize. In mice, we have actually discovered a group of neurons that is activated when an animal is in a loneliness-like state. We used optogenetics to activate this brain circuit in a mouse and then observed its behavior. We discovered that when a mouse is placed in a box with two separate chambers, The mouse will avoid the side of the chamber that was associated with activation of these neurons. The fact that the mouse avoids this chamber indicates that the activation of this loneliness-like brain circuit is unpleasant. But when we gave a mouse an opportunity to socialize with another mouse, and we activated this circuit, it creates a pro-social effect, whereby the mouse approaches and socializes with the other mouse more. At first, we were confused with these results. How does activating a brain region produce a pro-social effect, but also cause a negative emotional experience? We therefore looked to another scientific field for an explanation: feeding, in particular, hunger. Hunger is a negative experience. And what do we do when we want to get rid of hunger? We eat. This is the same for a loneliness system. Loneliness is a negative experience, and what do we do to get rid of it? We socialize. If a mouse were with its social group, then this neural circuit would be silent. If that mouse were separated, these neurons would start to activate, causing the mouse to feel a loneliness-like state, driving it to go in search of its social group. When the mouse is reunited with the social group, these neurons stop firing. This is the first time that someone has discovered a neural circuit for loneliness. Not only did we find this circuit in mice, but we have evidence now that a similar circuit exists in humans. We are all looking forward to some sort of post-pandemic world. Unfortunately, before that, we have to recognize that we are in another public health crisis, a mental health crisis. To help tackle this crisis, we need to truly understand that it is cells in our brain and their multitude of connections that are the source of emotions, personalities, desires, and perceptions. With this understanding in hand, we can help eliminate the negative perceptions and stigmas that prevent many people from seeking the mental health support they need. We will be able to improve the lives of everyone who suffers from a mental illness in some point in their lifetime. This is half the population, as well as the lives of everyone else with whom they share the world. And with that, I would like to thank the Blavatnik Family Foundation and the New York Academy of Sciences for their support of science and young scientists like myself. I would also like to thank my family, my mentors, and especially my research team, my students, postdocs, and staff, without whom none of this would have been possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. The 2021 Chemistry Laureate has revolutionized the field of metal organic frameworks, unlocking exciting applications in sustainability from gas and vapor sensing to energy storage and conversion. Let's find out more about the fascinating work of Mircea Dingo.
I like to be curious about the world, but also solve problems. The way I can be useful is by imagining things that don't exist and make them. My name is Mircea Dingo. I'm the W.M. Keck Professor of Energy at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm a synthetic chemist. I imagine molecules and materials, and I have a fantastic group of people who help make those molecules. The materials that I'm particularly excited about are called metal organic frameworks. These are what I like to call sponges on steroids. They have the highest surface areas of any known material, higher than anything that humanity has ever known. They've been used for a bunch of different things, including storing gases, but we started wondering whether we can make them also electrically conductive. We wanted to do that because we thought that they could answer challenges in various environmental applications, including energy storage and energy conversion, and that's something I'm passionate about. We start with a goal, then we imagine what would make it so. So we come up with new molecules literally on the board. We draw them and think whether we can actually make them. So we picked molecules that other researchers haven't used before, and it worked. It was extremely exciting when we discovered one metal organic framework that was as conductive as graphite. So now that we have metal organic frameworks that are also electrically conductive, we can use them for energy storage devices, batteries, and supercapacitors. These are the things that make electric vehicles work, for instance. We are already working with several commercial partners to put our conductive metal organic frameworks in real-world applications. For instance, Lamborghini, or an electric Lamborghini. Never in my wildest dreams did I believe that just thinking about electrical current in porous materials would take me on a path to helping make an electric Lamborghini. But that is where our research has led us. So where are we going from here? One of the things that my lab is very curious about is how metal organic frameworks interact with light. This can help us answer fundamental questions about how solar cells work and perhaps even make them better. Being a Blavatnik National Award Laureate is a fantastic recognition of my research, of my group's efforts, but also, most importantly for me, that curiosity-driven research is still appreciated. Just watching my kids helps my curiosity. They're so excited to explore the world around them. They give me energy and more hope to go and seek new things.
Please welcome the 2021 Blavatnik National Awards Laureate in Chemistry from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Mircea Dincă.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about why I'm here and what my group has been doing in the last 10 years or so since we started at MIT. We've been investigating a set of materials that I'm really excited about, which are called metal organic frameworks. These materials are essentially sponges, but I like to call them sponges on steroids. And tonight I'm going to tell you why. So first, let's imagine what a sponge looks like. They're made up of some soft materials and interspersed with all of these little pores. Metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, have essentially the same structure, but much, much smaller. They have pores just like sponges, but the pores in MOFs are absolutely tiny compared to regular sponges. In fact, while the pores of a sponge are about 1 millimeter, those in MOFs are about 1 nanometer, 1,000,000 times smaller. That's about 100,000 times smaller than the width of a human hair. And only small molecules can fit inside these pores. The reason scientists get excited about these tiny pores is what it means for their surface area. So let's imagine that you have a big cube where the side is, say, 1 meter. The inside surface area of this cube is 6 square meters because it has 6 faces. Now, if I fill that big cube with tiny cubes, a single nanometer across, you can imagine the surface area will increase exponentially from that of the original 6 square meters. In fact, if you take just a teaspoon of one of these metal organic frameworks and laid it flat, the surface area would be large enough to cover an entire football field. I apologize, it's the Patriots football field. This is what makes these materials extremely exciting. They literally have the largest surface area of any materials known. So what can you do with these sponges on steroids? Well, just like with regular sponges, you can put stuff in them. Okay? Scientists have been using MOFs to soak up air, other gases, water for now 25 years. And they're really fantastic at doing that. For instance, everybody's concerned about CO2 today. The same gas that is warming the atmosphere can be used to manufacture chemicals or just make bubbly water. CO2 is stored in pressurized canisters, but if you first fill it with metal organic frameworks, you can take the amount contained in 9 cylinders and store it all in the same volume and pressure as just 1 cylinder. So you can imagine that this is really exciting. People use these for gas storage, or could in the future to safely store hydrogen for fuel cell cars and so on. Now, storing gases and liquids is great, but when I went to MIT, I wanted to explore something new, something else that could be possible with metal organic frameworks. At that point, every MOF that had been created had been an electrical insulator, like ceramics or plastics. This means that if you were really adventurous and you wanted to plug in a lamp with a MOF cord, okay, it wouldn't light up. no electricity would flow because they're insulated. Makes sense. They're just filled with empty space. But after learning more about the electrical properties of materials, I began to wonder, how could we take MOFs and make them as conducting as metal? Could we take a MOF cord and make it behave like a metal such that it would light up the lamp? To do this, we had to think about exactly how MOFs are put together. So you can think of them as being put together of these little molecule segments where the heads of the segments are the metal, and then you have the organic linker, similar to plastics, between the metal groups, hence the name metal organic framework. Now we can put these segments together however we like. We can make one-dimensional chains, two-dimensional sheets, or even three-dimensional frameworks, or our sponges filled with tiny pores. Now, how exactly you connect these segments together is important because it determines the stability and, most importantly, how conductive the material is. So let's think about how to make MOFs conducting by looking at these individual molecules. For electricity to flow, we need charges. Here, negatively charged electrons to be able to move freely through the molecule. Now, we can get charges in the metal and even in the organic strand. But they get stuck at the junction between the metal and the linker. So this junction is called a functional group. When I started my research lab, I wanted to find a way to clear this roadblock, which would make these supersponges electrically conductive. You might ask why? And my first answer is that it's just cool. How do you think about electricity, transporting electricity through materials that are mostly nothingness? The percent filled space in one of these materials is literally less than 50%. So it's more so nothingness than it is matter. Now, there are certainly exciting applications for conductive MOFs, which I'll get to, but it started really as an intellectual pursuit of how to make empty space conduct electricity. So to do this, our group went and dug through the literature to find a functional group that could conduct those charges. What we found led us to create this molecule, which when repeated over and over again, creates a MOF sheet. This molecule has all the components we need: a metal, an organic linker, and most importantly, a functional group that can now conduct electricity. When we stack these sheets, we can get our sponge structure, except now we can get electricity to flow through it. I really couldn't believe it when my students first showed me the data. We'd taken that porous structure and we were able to conduct electricity through it. We essentially took the properties we wanted from insulators and conductors and made a whole new kind of material. That was really exciting, and it opened up a whole bunch of new possible applications for us. The one I'll tell you briefly about is electrical energy storage. This is nothing new to anyone in this room. You all know about batteries. You all carry a battery right now, probably, in your pocket or handbag. Batteries are great. They can store a lot of energy, but the problem is that they charge and discharge really slowly, which makes them difficult to use in certain applications, like powering cars. There's actually another device that can store energy. It's called a supercapacitor, which delivers charge in a very similar way, but can charge and discharge much more quickly. The downside to supercapacitors is that they can't store as much charge as batteries. So with a supercapacitor powered car, you could charge it really fast, but you couldn't get very far. Now, one way to improve both batteries and supercapacitors is to increase their internal surface area. The more surface area, the more energy you can store. Now that we have conducting MOFs, we can use their huge surface area on these devices. Putting MOFs in batteries, something we've done, can greatly increase their capacity, but this still doesn't solve the problem of slow charging and discharging. However, by putting MOFs in supercapacitors, you can keep the fast charging and discharging, but now store a ton more energy. So if we could make this supercapacitor, it might be able to store enough energy to power everyday devices. But this is all theoretical. So we set out to test this idea, whether MOFs could make good supercapacitors. So we built one. And long story short, these things worked really well. The best way to show it is by demonstration. Here we made a simple device out of components just from Radio Shack, when it existed, with the supercapacitor on top. My student is going to crank this shaft just to show you the light works on its own. And now that he's cranking it, he's also going to charge the supercap. So with each turn, he's building up the charge stored in the supercap to eventually power the light bulb on its own. When he lets the crank go, the light bulb is still going, as you can see, which means the energy is being supplied only from the charges that are being stored inside the MOF itself. So that's really exciting because we essentially took a set of materials that everyone will believe were complete insulators and made something that stores electrical charge and can power devices. Now that we know these work, what else can we do? Well, we can use them to power cars, and not just ordinary cars. As you saw in my video, we can use them powerful and expensive supercars like Lamborghinis. We've partnered with them, and they're using our supercaps in this concept car they want to build. The supercaps will provide charge storage just like batteries do for a Tesla. This was unveiled at MIT a few years ago and is now an ongoing project. Once we demonstrate the principle of MOF-powered supercars, we can work to make MOFs cheaper and more accessible, hopefully come power your family car someday soon. So where else can we go? Now that we have these sponges that store electrical energy, we can do a lot of other things too. Another technology we've been able to make out of these is electrical cooling. I've actually co-founded a startup company called Transera to start making these. This innovation can provide the same cooling capacity as an average air conditioner, but with only about 50% of the energy. We're also looking at other applications like catalysis, using MOFs to catalyze new reactions, or to separate different gases. Really, the possibilities for conducting metal organic frameworks, now that we've made them, are pretty endless. And I couldn't be more excited about their future. With that, I want to thank my group. They're just a fantastic group of people. They often work better when I'm not at MIT. So despite everything, this past year has been quite good for our science. They're doing even more things besides conductive MOFs. I want to thank my sponsors. I mentioned Lamborghini, but also the Army Research Office and the Department of Energy have been really critical in setting us up on this research. And I want to thank my family. They're a fantastic bunch themselves, and they keep me busy when I'm not doing chemistry. Finally, I want to thank the New York Academy of Sciences, the Blavatnik Family Foundation for this honor. This award doesn't just recognize our work, but the importance of curiosity-driven research in academia. It's truly incredible what science can happen when people are free to follow their curiosity. So thank you to the Academy, the Blavatnik Family Foundation, and Mr. Len Blavatnik. Thank you.
The 2021 laureate in physical sciences and engineering has challenged limits in material science, resulting in scientific breakthroughs that influence applications in electromagnetics, nano-optics, and acoustics. Let's learn a little bit more about the groundbreaking work of Andrea Alou.
Our research is really driven by curiosity. It's an impressive quest to make new technologies. I am Andrea Alou from the City University of New York Advanced Science Research Center. Light, electromagnetic waves like radio signals are all around us, and we rely on them every day with our technologies. Today we are limited by what nature offers us in terms of the materials that make our devices. In our research, we try to push the boundaries of how materials interact with light and sound, to push technologies forward. We work on engineered materials at the nanoscale, metamaterials, to realize functionalities like optical properties, electromagnetic properties, or acoustic properties that go well beyond what the natural materials offer us. We use these materials for a broad range of technologies, including green energy, biomedical, imaging and sensing, wireless communications in much more efficient ways. We have a highly diverse research group, members coming from the US, from Europe, from Asia. It's fantastic to work all together with a common goal of advancing the new technologies. Reciprocity is a fundamental property of wave propagation. Light, sound travel with symmetry between 2 points in space. If I can see you, you can see me back. In our research, we are challenging this symmetry and focusing on building new materials that can allow waves to propagate one way and do not come back. And this is very important for many applications and technologies. Think, for instance, of the benefits that metamaterials can provide, harvesting the enormous flow of photons from the sun. Creating the most efficient technology to harvest a portion of this energy would open tremendous opportunities for green energy applications that can help address global warming and carbon-based technology. Our nanofabrication technologies are improving every day. My ultimate dream and goal is really to make an impact on grand societal challenges. As we go forward, we are going to the quantum limit. We can pattern and control the material composition at the atomic scale. And this opens truly new opportunities both for classical and quantum applications. Being a Blavatnik National Awards laureate brings terrific recognition and opens a lot of opportunities.
Everyone, please give a warm welcome to the 2021 Blavatnik National Awards laureate in Physical Sciences and Engineering from the Graduate Center of the City University of New York, Andrea Alou.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Lawrence. It's such a great honor for me to be here tonight. Waves are everywhere around us. Ocean waves, acoustic waves transporting sound, light, and other electromagnetic waves that carry signals to our cell phones, radios, and TV sets. And all of these waves are governed by the same fundamental laws of nature. Today's technologies rely heavily on wave phenomena. We need waves to connect to each other wirelessly through our cell phones, to sense and image the microscopic world. And we also rely on wave physics to extract energy from the sun. Yet, all these technologies, however widespread they may be, face fundamental limitations hindered by the limited set of materials that we can find in nature. In my lab, we look for ways to topple these limits by creating new engineered materials that push the boundaries of wave phenomena. My research explores the exotic phenomena arising when light meets special types of materials. We work at the intersection of photonics, that's the science that studies and exploits the flow of photons, that are the quanta of light, and metamaterials, that are custom designed materials engineered at the nanoscale. These materials are tailored by us to offer exotic properties that can manipulate light, radio waves, sound, and other types of waves in unprecedented ways. I spend a lot of my time thinking about the numerous ways in which we can unveil new forms of interactions between waves and matter to produce unique functionalities, and this way drive new technologies. Remarkably, the ancient Greeks and Romans had already developed, in some ways, a capacity to push the boundaries of how light commonly interacts with materials, at least to some degree. One example is the Lycurgus cup. It's a Roman glass vase realized over 1,500 years ago and currently housed at the British Museum in London. This cup has a unique optical property. If the cup is illuminated from the back, the object appears red to a viewer. However, when the cup is illuminated from the front, it actually looks green. So if we look at this vase under a microscope, what we find are very tiny metal particles made of an alloy silver and gold, about 70 nanometers in size. That's about 10,000 times smaller than a single grain of sand. Believe it or not, these tiny particles are actually responsible for the remarkable optical effect produced by this vase. And what I find even more remarkable is that the ancient Greeks and Romans were able to learn over time, and with their limited tools and understanding of wave physics, how to carefully melt precisely tiny amounts of precious metals into the glass to create this optical effect. If we fast forward to today, we understand much better how to exploit this phenomena, and we can engineer materials with unique properties that transcend our imagination. Sophisticated metamaterials that, for instance, can be made with extremely thin layers of glass, one stacked on top of each other, and adorned with perfectly aligned tiny gold or silver nanorods. These nanorods have an approximate size in the range of a few tenths of nanometers. We can control carefully the shape and the alignment of these particles, about 1,000 times thinner than a human hair. And we can think of these materials as a modern-day version of that Lycurgus cup, much more sophisticated. These materials you see here can produce holograms or realize the thinnest possible lenses for our cell phone cameras. And in the past 20 years, we have seen an unprecedented growth in our understanding of the wave phenomena arising in these metamaterials, making it possible to truly challenge the rules and physical limitations of how waves interact with matter that for centuries were considered as written in stone. Tonight, I want to spark a little bit your imagination and show you how metamaterials can truly transform our technologies. And I will do this by starting with one simple concept that we've been studying in the past few years. This concept is called reciprocity. Reciprocity is the property by which waves travel symmetrically between 2 points in space. We are used to assuming that waves, like sound or light, travel back and forth between point A and point B with the same properties. So if you hear me speak, you can count on the fact that I can also hear you speak back to me. However, a few years ago, I wanted to find out whether it would be possible to build a metamaterial that can efficiently break this symmetry and become non-reciprocal. And surprisingly, the answer became even stranger and more interesting than I expected. Let's stick with the example of sound waves again. Imagine there are 2 people around me, and both people can hear what I'm saying. Vice versa, or better yet, reciprocally, I also expect to be able to hear back what the other 2 people are saying to me. In my lab, we created the first of its kind metamaterial device that actually breaks reciprocity for sound waves and completely changes the dynamics of this conversation. We showed that our metamaterial can efficiently redirect the sound waves so that each person speaks only to the person to their right, but hears only what the person on their left is saying. You may think this can be quite useful at some boring dinner event. Certainly not this one. But actually this functionality turns out to have enormous implications for many other technologies. For example, ultrasound and sonar technologies in which more precise and accurate measurements are possible based on these acoustic features. Over the years, we've been able to extend this concept of broken reciprocity to other types of waves, from radio waves to light to thermal and mechanical waves, again using properly engineered metamaterials. And in turn, these non-reciprocal metamaterials have been offering us truly unique technological opportunities in various areas. For instance, in wireless communications, by enhancing the efficiency in which we connect our mobile phones by increasing the available data rates. Non-reciprocal metamaterials can also improve radar technology and enhance energy harvesting and green energy technologies. But actually it does not stop here. With custom engineered metamaterials, In my lab, we've been able to make small objects appear much larger than they are, which is extremely useful to image tiny details for biomedical imaging, for instance. And conversely, we can make large objects appear much smaller than they are, a sort of invisibility cloak for various wave types. We achieve these effects by creating metamaterials that literally change the way waves like light and sound are scattered around as they interact with them. The waves can go straight through our cloaked objects without scattering, and you cannot even detect their shadows. These are just a couple of examples of the fascinating discoveries enabled by metamaterials that my group has been advancing. And we continue to challenge our imagination, creating new materials that can trick light and sound into unprecedented wave phenomena. We believe this is just the start of the enormous opportunities that modern nanofabrication techniques and sophisticated material science and photonic engineering can actually achieve. For instance, we've been able to exploit these ideas and explore the impact of metamaterials for optical computing, quantum technologies, and topological wave phenomena. This award is really a fantastic recognition for all the hard work and effort that I and my colleagues have done over the past several years, and a huge boost for our future work and upcoming explorations. First and foremost, I want to sincerely thank Mr. Len Blavatnik, the Blavatnik Family Foundation, the New York Academy of Sciences for selecting me for this prestigious award. I share it with my group members and collaborators that over the years have been working tirelessly with me on many open questions related to the science of light and its applications. I would also like to thank the several funding agencies, companies and private foundations that have been supporting our work. And I take the opportunity to thank my mentor, Professor Neide Rengheta, for inspiring me to pursue a career in science and for his continuous support, the City University of New York for the encouragement and support throughout the past 3 years. And last, I thank my family, my parents, my wife Suzanne this year, my son Matteo for the continuous support and love. I certainly share this success with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrea. That was just terrific. Allow me to extend once more our heartfelt congratulations to you, to all our finalists and our laureates. I think we would all agree that our future is quite bright when you see the extraordinary science, the creativity, the passion of these young scholars for their work. So one more round of applause just for all of them. Thank you. So we are at that point in the evening where all that remains is the traditional Blavatnik Awards Toast to Science. So as our glasses are being filled, I want to again thank the Blavatnik Family Foundation and the New York Academy of Sciences for giving me the honor of being the MC tonight. This is as close as I'll ever come to the Academy Awards. It's really been inspirational and also fun, and a great opportunity to see so many old friends and colleagues. And I hope everybody has at least something in their glass right now. And I would like to ask all of tonight's honorees to please rise. Please stand. And with the deepest gratitude and affection to the Museum of Natural History and our friend up here, the whale, to the New York Academy of Sciences, to our devoted Blavatnik judges, to all of our inspiring young scientists and the great institutions where they found homes, to those who have inspired them to pursue their careers and who have supported them in their science, to everyone who's walked the halls of this extraordinary institution under the gaze of this amazing mammal, all in search of knowledge and wisdom. please join me in a toast to science. Good night, everyone. Stay healthy, and we look forward to seeing you all here again next year. Thank you very much.